Today we're going to be looking at Mew VMAX with Judge and Path, really at the helm here, trying to make this deck one of the most disruptive in the game by essentially spamming the Judge supporter, as well as we get to the late game and a VMAX has been knocked out, or a couple of our V Pokemon, we can use that Roxanne as well, in combination with Path to the Peak to shut down our opponent's abilities. Now, Mew is of course a very ability-reliant deck itself, thanks to Genesect's Fusion Strike system, which is the sort of activator of this deck, allowing us to cycle and piece together lots of combinations all in one go, which is why we're also seeing for Lost Vacuum in the deck list at the same time. Lost Vacuum is a great way to sort of declog our hand a little bit at times, and can be a way that we can Lost Zone our own Path to the Peak, draw a bunch of cards with Genesect, then re-establish that Path to the Peak at the end of our turn. So Path, very disruptive, can be good in the mirror match of course, can be very good against Lugia, can be pretty strong against Gardevoir, and especially even with these decks all having a ton of outs to the cards themselves, because we're throwing Judges and Roxannes all over the place, we're trying to make it difficult for our opponent to string things together, and at the same time, Path to the Peak is our best defense against Drapion V. It forces the opponent to find Stadium Bouts as well as Drapion. Doesn't sound like many combinations, oftentimes switch outs as well, but because we are constantly putting our opponents on that lower hand size, we're going to try and make it difficult for them. So the disruption supporters are quite obvious. Avery, pretty nice in the mirror match, also is pretty strong into Gardy as well, because we know they do love to go wide, whilst also giving us that draw 3 option. We are playing 2 cards different to Pablo 60. One of them is that I'm adding in a Serena over one of the copies of Boss's Orders. I think we already have coverage with Pal Pad for plenty of bosses in matchups where there are no V Pokemon, but Serena has that mini upside of just being another way to declog the hand if we have no better options going on, whilst also being a pretty decent opening turn supporter if we have gone second and we again have not much push potential, because the deck is great at drawing cards once these Genesects are established, which means the Nest Balls, the VIP Pass, the Ultra Balls, these are all crucial cards in the deck to find Genesect in the opening stages, and Serena just sort of adds to that kind of low support account that we are playing in the deck list. We have Cram-o-matic again, very similar card where we play such a high density of item cards that we have lots of fodder here, again helping us piece together combos, which is what this deck is all about. We're trying to use Genesect over and over again with that Fusion Strike system to either piece together higher damage output turns with multiple power tablets, or we're trying to piece together disruptive combos with Judge and Path, or we're just getting bits and bobs, you know, drawing into our next VMAX, our next Double Turbo Energy, that sort of thing. The other change I made from Pablo's list was changing one of the Choice Belts to a Cleansing Gloves. Now, I think Cleansing Gloves is actually really well placed in the metagame right now. Looks like a bit of a meme card, but the Psychic type in Pokemon is very, very strong. Comfey is in every Lost Zone deck, which is already like 40% of the meta. Cleansing Gloves is useful against Mew in the mirror, essentially acts as a second belt, and is also very good into Gardevoir EX. This allows us to reach on that EX a little bit easier with a combination of power tablets. The Guardies sometimes are damaging themselves as well, but the Gloves really comes in as a crucial card. And the reason why I mention Comfey in Lost Box specifically is because oftentimes we will be looking to use Psychic Leap as much as possible here from our Mew V, obviously copying it via Cross Fusion Strike here, and because Double Turbo Energy reduces 20, we can offset that whilst using a Cleansing Gloves or Power Tablets so that we can constantly leap into the deck, which means we're protecting ourselves from a Drapion knockout, obviously, but also we can sponge hits with our Mews from like early Cram hits and other sort of pressure pokes our opponent can come up with, and we can then leap that back into the deck, effectively undoing our opponent's turn, which is going to be really important because we are an all multi-prize deck, right? So we need to take some of this damage off the board when we are able. Not too much else to be said here. We have the tech cards of Echoing Horn to make sure we're dealing with multi-prize Pokemon. We have the Fan of Waves in here as well. Really nice tech card. It can remove gift energies from Lugia players, but also can get rid of V-Guard energies, again from Lugia players and on things like Tyranitar, so we can continue to reach into these Pokemon for knockouts. So seems pretty valuable there. It can sometimes, again, be relevant in the mirror because we are both going to be path spamming each other at different points, so if you can get rid of a DTE whilst doing like a Gust knockout or something like that, it could be pretty valuable. So yeah, that is the list, mostly inspired by Pablo's really great run at the EUIC, showing that we don't necessarily need to play Lost City. Now, Lost City is a way to deal with a Drapion, and we know that many Lost boxes play Drap plus Clara, so then it really becomes that cat and mouse game of us using Roxanne and Path and hoping the opponent doesn't find a combination of Stadium Bounce plus Clara, because that essentially just wins on the spot, as long as we have VMAXs in the active position. So trying to navigate that is going to be important. It is a little bit troubling sometimes, but I think the statement is that Path is just so much stronger at having that disruptive option that you make it hard enough for a Drapion to sort of come back anyway, because they're having to use a non-draw supporter in Clara to try and get that back all in a turn, plus to have that Stadium Bounce. So you're still putting them on the clock, still trying to make life difficult for them. Plus, if you're using Paths rather than Lost Cities, you can actually Echoing Horn back the Drapion for another 2-prize knockout. So it can sometimes actually be beneficial for you for them to have used Drapion, let's say, early. Roxanne buys you that turn, you get the instant response knockout, then you can catch up with Echoing Horn, actually bringing it back into play for yourself. So that's kind of the idea with the Mew deck. Still very disruptive, still very consistent on its own end, still has power spikes with damage output, still can be aggressive with gusting or hand disruption. It attacks matchups on different fronts. So let's get into the games. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So getting into this first game, we do get to go first. And this one's going to have to get tossed back into the deck here. Only playing 8 basic Pokemon means we might mulligan a decent amount of the time. There's also that debate of whether or not you want to play the Oricorio in your deck list. It gives you that extra basic just in general, so that we can just keep making sure that we always have that sort of 6 Pokemon bench. But it also can be beneficial in like mirror match situations and stuff. Looks like we're going to start off with a Cram. Fortunately, it is heads. Otherwise, we're going to have a pretty dicey Ultra Ball panic play with Genesect. But now we can VIP pass. We also get to look through the deck to make our Ultra Ball an easier choice here, where we are going to make sure that we had our Pal Pad and our other VMAX in the deck, so we can simply get rid of those, knowing we have 2 VMAX still to see us through the game and Pal Pad to recover rocks. We get a system for a few more cards. I've already developed the Cleansing Gloves. I'm going to pop that on the energy on a different Mew here, just before cycling with Genesect. We are sitting on Cram, Nest, and Ultra. I decided I actually want the VMAX most for next turn, because I pretty much have everything I require, rather than going for a Cram flip to sort of reload the hand. So pretty much everything we need from a turn 1 here. Our hand's a little bit cloggy in that I don't really have access to Judge right now, but we already have Switch Cart, which could be quite nice at negating some early Cram hits. And we'll get a little bit more information about our opponent's deck at this point. We've pretty much done everything we really want to. We see a Greninja into a Flower Selecting, getting rid of a Nest Ball so they can pay retreat into a Comfey. We see Water Energy and Metal Energy. So I'm thinking it's going to be like Zamazenta based a little bit here. Might be a more one-prizey focus build, so I've got to keep an eye on the likes of Snorlax and a few other things. We actually see a Zinnia's Resolve, which you don't see too often in Lost Zone box. Typically, you just see like Gears alongside Chorus. Our opponent is going to pass the turn with a 9-card hand, and we actually pick up Judge, which is pretty much the best draw we could have hit here. Means I'm going to be able to switch cards, get a few draws in before going Path Judge, and Path is still good against Lost Zone box because we've already seen the Radiant Greninja is in play, and we've got to get rid of that monster hand that they were able to grow. We hit a Forest Seal Stone off that, which is a great card to just sort of have banked for us for the next turn, and we can just Technoblast through this Comfey pretty happily. And we actually pick up a Vacuum as well, which could save us a Cram flip or a Forest Seal Stone to bounce Path if we really feel like we need to unlock the hand. As it is, we are going to see a payment of retreat for another Flower Selecting here. And we actually do see that Zamazenta, but no attack with Cram at all, so no pressure whatsoever. Seems like a good enough time to get the Avery in here. I think I was mostly just looking for an item card to unlock my Cram a little bit here. We have a ton of tablets, a ton of vacuums as well. We do hit heads on our Cram, and I think just grabbing a VMAX or potentially Ultra Ball could be pretty solid here. So I can just retreat and get another hit in. Don't necessarily need the Ultra Ball when I already have Vacuum that can unlock this hand whenever I need to. So we can just come in and Max Miracle here. Pretty easy. It's not surprising for this deck to go ahead against the Lost Zone box, but we know they have that comeback potential. Oftentimes they're just cycling towards some crucial combos. The likes of Drapion, Stadium Bounce are rife within these deck lists. So things we have to bear in mind here. As we see a Cram come down. Finally a Chorus as well, so they are getting to work on that Lost Zone. But again, just a pass. And you can see just how these judges are affecting our opponent straight away here, where they're just not on all cylinders at all. Knocking out another Comfey here would be pretty massive for us, I think. Just really stifle that draw as much as possible. You can see I was debating whether or not to use this Forest Seal Stone, but in the end I do opt for Judge here, just to again reduce that hand size. You can see they have 25 cards still in the deck, trying to make it as difficult as possible once again knocking out a Comfey. Just really just strangling that draw is what this matchup is all about. You do not want to let them get to the bottom of their deck. That's when things get really scary. But they've not even launched an attack this game. We finally see a Cram in the active, and we see Sableye Mirage Gate. Certainly an interesting one. I think they just, yeah, as you can see, they're going to retreat out of Cram because they know that going into a VMAX is just so bad for them, right? They just know that that damage will get wiped away. So we'll have a look in their discard pile. They do have a number of water and metal. So at this point, I haven't seen much else other than the Zam, but we have to have in the back of our mind that they could also be playing Kyogre, which would be a little scary for us. Looks like I'm happy to unlock our hand to go fishing for a few cards here. Throwing away a tablet in the process as well. I'm going to play Cram here to get tails on that. Looks like I'm just looking to motor through the deck a little bit here. Work towards possibly Roxanne. Could definitely be something I'm looking for here. Just going to redevelop Path by the looks of things and play another Judge. We can just simply thin the hand of a few cards here. Going to get back that Roxanne and Judge. Because we got rid of the rocks early. And looks like I'm going to protect the Cleansing Gloves here. Seems reasonable enough because I have no damage on the active. And I'm actually opting to Psychic Leap because our opponent, we're going down to 2 prize cards left, so we're giving them essentially a 2-turn clock to win. So I'm sending up a 2 prize Pokemon here just to make it that little bit more difficult for them to get Drapion plays online. We see the Clara back into Sableye at the very least. So they can finish off Genesect here on the bench. They have 15 cards left in deck. They can vacuum away Path here. They actually get rid of a Raihan. So they can see a couple more from concealed cards. And it will be the Lost Mine to finish off our Genesect here. And also going to put some damage into Mew VMAX. That seems fine. We hit a Boss's Orders, which is kind of interesting. Possibly I can go after Greninja or Comfey. Again, they're at 4 prizes, and we haven't seen Sky Seal Stone yet, so maybe that's something I have to respect a little bit here. They have their V-Star power open, so possibly just boss into Sableye or into Comfey, honestly, just to hurt their draw potential is my best play, because I can't Roxanne in this instance. The Judge doesn't seem all that powerful, so I think I should probably be leaping here to play around Sky Seal Stone Drapion. So I think that's one of the only things I lose to here, outside of our opponent getting to the bottom of their deck, essentially, and going for a big Kyogre combo. And I'm hoping that with this Gust, I'm at least stopping one of their Comfeys. You can see I'm debating between Greninja and Comfey here as well, and Sableye. I think Comfey is probably the best choice, though. Yeah, we eventually make the right call. Just stopping our opponents dig that little bit more, and this way, with the second Mew established, I can just leap here to play around Sky Seal Stone. So I literally only lose to Kyogre at this point. Opponent has 10 cards remaining in the deck. Now they go down to 8. They can chorus down to a 3-card deck. And we do see Kyogre Gate It's just a Psychic to the Comfey, so I think we're getting away with it here. We see the turn attachment to Kyogre. Do you see the Recycler? So they're up to 7 now. Then the Gate, so they would only have 3 energy right now, which isn't enough, but they have a second Recycler. So it's a slight lucky dip, but they have really good odds here, and they actually do get us with the Aqua Storm combo. We did our best to disrupt our opponent, but of course they can play around Roxanne when they play the Kyogre. But yeah, it looked like I shut every door apart from the Kyogre option, so fair play to our opponent there. Let's get into our next game. It really is all down to the Mew player trying to make it as difficult as possible, but sometimes the Kyogre combo is just too strong. Looks like we're getting a Genesect start with a good amount of ball search in this opener here. And we are up against a Gardy. Let's establish double Mew and Genesect. Happy enough to burn a tablet and rope here just to draw a card by the looks of things. It's actually a Cram, so you really want to keep tablets. I know I've played one already, but I'm allowed to keep my other ones for... Well, I kind of want to keep the other ones for a Gardy EX knockout. So we are just going to cram away Pal Pad here, which is a little bit scary when I haven't yet seen the deck. But all just to draw an extra couple cards. We got the Mew established, so pretty nice opener for us, really. I have VMAX, not too cloggy of a hand right now. As our opponent actually starts double VIP, the dream. Really nice. And also an Ultra Ball, getting rid of Penny and Manaphy. Definitely don't need the Manaphy too much in this matchup. They are just going to develop double Rolts. They can Fog to get into the Mew as well. And they actually have a clean Judge. Pretty nice. We get into a pretty nice hand, actually, able to use another Nest Ball and fill up our board before Genesecting. So we're happy on our end, but the opponent has had a really good start here with Mysterious Tail as well. 2 Psychic already in the bin for them. Triple Rolts down and Greninja. They can even roar the Sword here as well if they want to. Don't really recommend getting the Zacian down because it can be Gust prizes for us. But it's what they're working with. Looks like we have a nice Genesect for 3 here. So we do have Ultra Ball for a VMAX, which is where we're going to start the turn. And then I think we probably just want to cycle through the deck, because I had a little look through there. Let's see 3 more cards. And we actually pick up the Avery, which I think would have been the best thing I could have drawn here, and was even considering it from a Forest Seal Stone. But now I get to see the 3 cards, and then I can Forest Seal Stone for the DTE now as well and take a prize. I'm also just going to reduce the hand size that little bit more to see if I can hit Rope. Rope would be really nice here. Or just hit the raw DTE and then not have to start Alchemy. Just the path, so now we can start Alchemy just so we are taking that prize. But the Avery, you know, it doesn't seem like much, but even hurting a little bit of draw from the Guardy player is still pretty powerful. And, you know, sometimes just knocking out the Zacian forces them into like an earlier Miriam or something like that. So pretty nice overall. Our opponent now has 3 Rolts only, and there's a path developed. We're holding on to a really nice hand with Vacuum, Gloves, double Tablet as well, which is insane. Our opponent bounces Path into Temple and is going to get rolling here with Refinement. Going to see a couple Curlier, as you'd expect. We actually see Ultra Ball getting rid of their other stadium as well, so Temple and Collapsed now gone. Definitely puts pressure on their Worker and their Pal Pad. We actually see Candy Guardy into the Research, so really nice hand from our opponent. The only thing is, we are holding on to Cleansing Gloves double Tablet, so if they try and get a poke in with Guardy EX, it gets really heavily punished. Our hand is actually insane. We have Gloves double Tablet, Path Judge. The only issue is I Technoblasted last turn. Did I need to Technoblast last turn? Could I have just Max Miracled? Did I press the wrong attack there last turn? Probably did, by the looks of things. I had double VMAX established. Yeah, so I definitely... Oh, is the downward arrow just because there's a Temple of Sinnoh? That might be the reason. Anyway. We're going to get Mew in the mix here with the double tablet and the gloves. I want to do it on the healthier Mew anyway, so I can try and possibly even double dip the gloves with a leap play. We're just going to thin this Switch Cart. There definitely is a debate for me using a vacuum here and getting rid of a path. Just to get rid of the temple in case the Judge doesn't really do much for me. Yeah, so we are going to get rid of the temple just to be safe here and draw 3 more cards. We actually do hit DT now as well, so I can pretty comfortably path Judge in peace now. Can also cram away this VIP. Just honestly, I don't even know what I want from this. I just wanted to thin the bad cards. So yeah, it looks like I'm just taking another thinnable out the deck, so that I'm improving my Judge odds now that I'm pathing myself. But again, really, really high tempo turn here, knocking out a EX. Thanks to the Cleansing Gloves, actually, really helping out. And now we are 3 prizes up with only 2 Curlier in play for our opponents. They do have a decent number of Psych Energy in the bin for them right now, though. So have to keep that in mind. I think their best turn would be to find the EX and Gust our Mew VMAX. That would put them in pretty good range. But other than that, I don't feel like they have many good turns here. They would have to find... Well, yeah, they've actually got rid of both stadiums, right? So they couldn't even make that play happen. They have to worker away our stadium this turn if they want to do anything. Otherwise, they're essentially passing into us. And we actually see the research. So I think that means we get another free turn unless the Shiny Arcana is the nuts. Which it isn't. So we're getting another freebie turn here. Because our opponents established double stadium early, just with essentially what they drew. So I think now we're just in really good shape in terms of a prize race here. I can take a knockout and Judge just once again. I'm once again cramming just to get rid of cards that I don't really need. DT looks like an insta-playable. I can also play down this Choice Belt before just Judge spamming one more time and taking an easy Technoblast knockout here. I'm not all that afraid that I've got VMAX that's damaged in the active at this stage. I once again know that my opponent has played their stadium, so if they can't worker exactly now, they're essentially just passing for another turn. They can't use Zacian to finish us off. The only thing that's a little bit scary is they could just go in on this EX and I couldn't deal with it all in one turn and then go into Zacian the next turn, but they didn't really have the draw to support that, and that's why they just ended up conceding here. Right, straight into this third game then. Our opponent gets to go first. We have a mulligan. And looks like we have Genesect double VIP into Forest Sealstone. That is a dream of a hand. And looks like our opponent's playing a Lost Box of some description with that Hawlucha start. Yeah, we're going to see Comfey straight away. Water Energy into the Comfey, so it's the flower selecting. Sort of rope, and actually just passes there, so not too explosive from our opponent. Unlike us, slamming those VIPs. I probably should look through the deck there, to be honest with you. Let's slam the forest and see a couple cards. Actually, another VIP pass. I wonder if I'll actually scout the deck this time. Nope. Okay, right. Let's have a look. I can unlock the hand quite nicely with a path vacuum play, but looks like I didn't want to dig too much. I think the only thing I'd really dig for there is a Judge, which could have been pretty reasonable, but not too much else that I needed really this turn. I think I'm mostly just happy holding on to Switch Cart. I think that's kind of the main stickler here, where I want this Genesect to be healed from a cram hit. So our opponent is going to Colress into Comfey, get some value. Actually throw away a Recycler and play Pokestop. So again, it looks like it could be a Kyogre build. We actually see Darkness Energy in their list, so it's probably going to be like that Moffat list where it plays Snorlax, Moltres, and Kyogre, which are all quite scary mons, that's for sure. We're going to go for an early Vacuum, getting rid of Vacuum to get rid of our own path so that we can unlock the hand a little bit. We actually do get that Switch Cart value. And now I can get to work on a Mew. Our hand's a little bit cloggy though, so I think I will just be slamming a Judge here. just to recycle the hand a little bit. Look to find VMAX, which we do quite nicely. And we can see 3 more cards. Gloves is a decent thing to hold on to. I am definitely debating the path here. I don't have an easy way out of path. And our opponent hasn't yet established Greninja. And because I've seen Darkness Energy, I'm more expecting a Moltres than a Drapion here. So typically you'd probably have to play that path expecting to protect yourself from Drapion. But because I've seen Darkness Energy, I feel that I know what they're playing for the Mew matchup, and it's not Drapion. So I feel like I can hold this path here. It's actually going to work out pretty okay, because now I can bounce Pokestop next turn and try and be more destructive once again. As the opponent does Pokestop, they hit the Gear and the Nest Ball, so they've really made their hand a lot better now, because they can conceal cards and get to work on that front. And then they are just going to hit with Cram here into the active. We're going to start with a Rope. We have those Cleansing Gloves, so it looks like I am going to be eyeing up a Psychic Leap play here with the early Rope. I can get rid of Fan of Waves, that's kind of a dead card. And I think, once again, we're just going to try and grab another disruptive option here. Looks like I'm actually going for other VMAX here. But I might just change my mind for a Judge. Yeah, I think Judge is the better option, to be honest with you. Cleansing Gloves onto the Mew just so I can recycle it for later. And I don't want to draw into it now. Also, I can get some Genesect value quickly. Always good to sort of time your Genesects. Choice Belt, I'm not really expecting any single prize Pokemon now that I've seen... double prize Pokemon now that I've seen the Darkness Energy. So I think it's just a card worth thinning. Then we can do the old Path Judge. I am supporterless right now, so power padding in Judges just to give myself a possible supporter top deck is reasonable. Holding on to the Forest Hill Stone just as vacuum fodder, and we will take our second prize of the game. Let's see some flower selectings. Here is Snorlax, so definitely an argument for me to have gone into a Genesect instead to play around Lax here, as they have got Mirage Gate, Switch Cart, attach Lax for double prize, which is definitely scary. You don't like giving up those easy prizes, especially with a damaged Genesect. They can essentially try and ignore our VMAX at this point, or only need to really do one Moltres, which is a little bit scary. And I'm actually just going to keep the Stadium in play here, rather than go fishing for another bounce. So we just grab the VMAX, keep the Vacuum, knowing I can just get rid of my prize or my top deck next turn to unlock the hand a little bit. And just wanting to keep that path established, because they essentially played like every card out of their hand last turn. And they just sort of got random ones from their prizes and top deck. So no real insight on what was remaining in their hand. Turns out they do have access to Colress, though. They're honestly doing quite well. They're going down to, 11 cards in deck after this Colress. So they have cycled through quite nicely. That's a Clara and a Darkness Energy going, though, which sounds pretty good for us, honestly. There's another flower selecting. Can they develop a Sableye play here? They put a lot of Psych Energy onto their Snorlax last turn just to take a knockout. We do find the Sableye, though. And just the pass. So yeah, we have a reprieve from any damage here, which is pretty nice. Looks like I'm eyeing up Avery. I feel like even if I just get rid of one Comfey, if I'm knocking out a Comfey at the same time, it could be pretty valuable. I'm just essentially debating whether or not Avery is better here than just going for a Judge. And I feel like Judge is still pretty high value. So we're going to go hunting for that instead here. Even when a Lost Box's hand isn't all that high, when you know that they're doing these choruses, they're just, they're holding combo pieces, right? They're holding the best of 5, even if it's only 2 physical cards. So hand size isn't always like the full story with Lost Zone Box. And we have to be so careful of Moltres here, as we are just going to cycle that a little bit more, and then once again hit the old hand reset button with that Judge and Path combination. And we're also holding on to Roxanne for next turn, which is looking pretty good if they go for a Sableye play or if they make a Clara-Moltres play happen. In both departments, we get around it. Or we make it as hard as possible for our opponent to take their last single prize, or 2 prizes if they knock out the Genesect with Sableye here. The opponent is going to Nest Ball. 7 cards remaining in deck, 5 in hand. Definitely have to be a little scared of what happened in the first game that we looked at today when Kyogre just wrecked us. Looks like they're going to fail the Nest Ball, then Colress into their deck. They really are going skimpy here. Let's see the Rope. Definitely debate to give them Genesect here so that I'm forcing that Roxanne if they want to go for a Cram hit. Just really saying it's hard for them to win with such a low hand size if I just go for this. Now they bench Kyogre as well, and they are just going to deal with Genesect here with Spit Innocently. So definitely a debate there if maybe forcing a Psych Energy was better out of their hand rather than giving them this easy prize. But also I just feel like with their deck size so thin, I probably have to Roxanne if ever I'm going to win this game. So forcing them into those prizes seems reasonable, right? Definitely a close one, whether or not I should give them those additional cards from prizes or just send up a Genesect there and force them to Sableye me. As it stands, our opponent has 3 cards in hand, and this one flower selecting, can they get there with Aqua Storm? We see a Switch Cart, now they can go down to 2 cards remaining in the deck. They need to have, double Recycler, Gate, another Switch card, and Attachment. So they need to have a really specific combination of cards here. If their Stadium Bounce allows them to Greninja, they could get to the bottom of their deck. But then they'd have to have even more energy in hand. I just don't think does a 6-card combination beat us? It probably does, right? But it has to be the exact cards. It has to be Recycler, Recycler, Gate, Attach, Switch Out. If that Switch Out was a Stadium, I think maybe they could Greninja to get there, but no, it looks like they're just out in this occasion. So that is our games with Mew. Sometimes the Judge path kind of gets there. My brilliant strategy paid off this time around, but didn't the first time. I think Kyogre's definitely one of the scariest Lost Zone boxes. Also, Charizard's quite scary with that Drapion combo. And ultimately, they have a lot of turns to try and piece something together against you. But if you like disrupting the opponent, if you like making them have it, and just also being a deck that gets into most games, I think Mew's a pretty good choice. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.